The morning in Cedar Grove seemed to hold its breath. The wind passed slowly through the trees in the yard. The balcony creaked as if remembering ancient footsteps. Evelyn Parker adjusted her blue knit coat. For a second, she pretended she wasn't tired. The wall clock ticked a stubborn rhythm. On the kitchen table, medicine bottles in a timid row. A glass of water with fingerprints. A note from the community clinic, folded twice. And that silence that says what no one says out loud. Before we continue, a very light request. If stories like this touch your heart, stick around. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Take your time, at your own pace. This way you listen to each chapter as it arrives. Now, let's go back to Evelyn's balcony. Emma parked the car on the street lined with golden leaves. He came in calling softly, as if he didn't want to wake up memories. "Grandma." The voice came out half laugh, half prayer. The smell of weak coffee and toasting sliced bread. And a child's drawing stuck to the fridge, a little crooked. Evelyn smiled in the way of someone who keeps tides inside. He said he was well enough, in that stubborn mood. I brought 2 mugs and a jar of cheap honey. The eyes, however, had autumn shadows. Emma noticed and stayed longer than she planned. On the flowered sofa, Evelyn's cell phone blinked on its own. Without a password, like someone who never had anything to hide. There were missed calls with familiar names. Open messages, but answered with short sentences. And a voice message that no one listened to until the end. "You won't believe what happened," Evelyn began. He stopped in the middle, like someone stepping on the brakes on an icy road. "Forget it, it's nonsense, just a lack of vitamins." Emma tilted her head, suspicious of the laughter. Something there didn't match the strong grandmother's tone. The kitchen looked like a family album. Glass jars with old buttons and coins. A faded photo of the old diner on the corner. And a little card from the Methodist church, with worship times. Important things always end up in plain sight. Emma opened the window, letting in fresh air. The wind moved the clinic ticket. He fell to the ground, as if asking for help. Emma picked it up, read 2 lines, and swallowed hard. There were exams scheduled that couldn't wait. Evelyn tried to change the subject sweetly. He asked about Nashville, about Columbus, about his nephews. Saying that everyone was too busy. "It's modern life," he explained, with a crooked smile. But fatigue flashed again, stubborn. Emma offered a ride to the clinic that afternoon. Evelyn, proudly, said she could go by bus. "Don't worry, dear, God takes care." The voice had faith, but also hidden weakness. Emma decided she wasn't going to take no for an answer. On the shelf, a Bible open to the pastor's psalm. A bookmark made of ribbon and a dried flower. Small pencil notes in the thin margins. Phrases about caring for those in need. And about the strength that comes in the midst of weakness. "Grandma, when was the last time you ate properly?" Evelyn laughed, exaggerating the likeness. "Earlier today, a roll, coffee and a piece of apple." Emma prepared eggs, butter, and some oatmeal. The house smelled of care in a large pot. As she stirred the pan, Emma thought about the calls. He remembered the family group, always full of emojis. He remembered promises of postponed visits. That kind of tomorrow that never comes. Deep down, something hurt like a tight shoe. Evelyn thanked him for the food with wet eyes. She said a short prayer, as she had done since she was a girl. He was grateful for the bread, for his granddaughter, for the chance to start over. He asked for wisdom not to harden his heart. Emma said, "Amen," softly, just for the 2 of them. After coffee, a cough came uninvited. It was a long, heavy cough that scared him. Evelyn held onto the sink to keep from weakening. Emma saw her grandmother's face fall for a moment. The air returned, but it brought a warning that cannot be ignored. "Let's go to the clinic today, no excuses." Evelyn was about to protest, but Emma's gaze steadied the bridge. "I know you don't want to worry anyone. But I care, and that has to count for something." Silence. And a wave that was almost a hug. The cell phone vibrated with a new message. Emma tapped the icon and listened to half of the message. A professional, kind voice asking for feedback. He talked about results that required conversation. And I suggested not postponing it, for the love of one's own life. Evelyn dried her hands and sought her old calm. He said that older people sometimes hide pain. It's not out of pride, it's out of concern for the children. Emma understood, but didn't agree. True care doesn't hide what hurts. In the hallway, boxes with bills and letters from the plan. Envelope upon envelope, like tiles upon tiles. Some letters underlined, others ignored. The weight of the paper seemed heavier than it should have been. Emma took a deep breath, looking at the mound. There is a neighbor who brought soup yesterday. Evelyn spoke of Mrs. Johnson, on the left. He said the church sometimes calls to pray. And the postman always asks about your health. The whole town seemed to notice what the children didn't see. The old radio played a soft hymn. "Grace upon grace," sang the distant voice. Evelyn closed her eyes for a moment. A small piece has landed, fragile but real. Emma took that sound as a sign. The afternoon stretched on, and the sky turned peach-colored. Emma grabbed an extra coat for her grandmother. "It will be cold when you leave the clinic." Evelyn smiled, surprised to feel cared for. Sometimes love is as simple as predicting the wind. At the door, the keys jingled like bells. The neighborhood looked on with good curiosity. A wave from the mailman, another from the girl with the beagle. Cedar Grove knew everything without gossiping too much. And he knew Evelyn was an ancient jewel. Inside the car, silence spoke first. Then came a light, slow, sincere conversation. Emma asked about the diner, about the donut sundaes. Evelyn told stories with a sparkle in her eyes. The disease seemed to recede, for a few minutes. "Do you remember the old pastor's advice? Honoring your father and mother has no expiration date." Evelyn laughed, with a hint of sweet irony. "And honoring grandparents should also become a custom." Emma nodded, her heart stirring. The clinic appeared at the end of the main avenue. White lights, people with hurried steps. A friendly receptionist, a simple form. Emma filled it in, leaving no room for doubt. Evelyn held his hand under the counter. While they waited, children laughed at something silly. A gentleman was talking about Sunday's game. A woman was reading a novel with a folded cover. Life continued, stubbornly, in every corner. And inside, answers began to awaken. The doctor arrived with human eyes. He listened more than he asked, with gentle attention. "We'll take it step by step," he said firmly. He talked about exams, rest, monitoring. No panic, just presence and plan. Evelyn nodded, as if finally resting. Emma mentally recorded each instruction. "Can I call you with the results?" The doctor looked at Emma and smiled. "It is important that someone from the family answers." On the way back, the city had turned on its lights. Houses smelling of dinner and low laughter. Emma thought of her aunt and uncle, so near and yet so far away. He thought about the cell phone group, always busy. And the truth began to gain traction. Evelyn asked for a quick stop at the market. They took milk, bread, and a small pot of cheap flowers. To decorate the table, life is grateful. Emma silently put the flowers in the cart. Sometimes beauty is the strongest medicine. In the parking lot, the sky looked like a thick blanket. Evelyn leaned back in her seat, breathing easier. Emma carefully adjusted her belt. The road to the house seemed shorter. The future was still scary, but now it was a two-way street. Back in the kitchen, Emma taped a calendar to the fridge. He wrote the appointment dates in capital letters. He promised to bring soup on Thursday and follow up on Saturday. Evelyn didn't argue, she just thanked him with her eyes. The routine began to learn a new step. On the table, there was the cell phone with messages hanging on it. Names of children that life took away. Answers that were left halfway. Emma stared at the screen as if looking into a mirror. There was a conversation that needed to happen. Night fell softly over Cedar Grove. Evelyn covered her legs with a patchwork blanket. Emma turned off the lights, leaving one lamp on. "See you tomorrow, I'll be back early." The affection made the house seem bigger. Before going to sleep, Evelyn opened the Bible again. You read about the good neighbor who didn't cross the sidewalk. He smiled thinking about his granddaughter who doesn't cross, who stays. He asked God for a meek heart for everyone, and a chance to heal what was misunderstood. Emma, in the car, took 3 deep breaths. He thought about what he would say to his uncles without making cheap accusations. I wanted to speak firmly and tenderly. The time has come to tell the truth, he murmured. The engine started, and a new courage started with it. Evelyn's porch was filled with crickets. The flowers in the new vase seemed to pay attention. The house, for a moment, was not so silent. There was a thread of hope tucked in the corners, and a rumor of change coming down the road. The routine at Michael's house in Columbus was a whirlwind. The alarm clock rang too early, the traffic seemed to swallow up minutes. Spreadsheets, meetings, and the constant voice of the boss demanding deadlines. Between a hurried coffee and a missed call, the days blended together. His cell phone vibrated on the table with the name Mom, but he left it for later. Sarah, in Nashville, lived with her suitcases half open. Children's medical appointments, girls' dance rehearsals, school meetings. Online purchases piled up on the porch, boxes awaiting attention. She ran after life, but life seemed to run faster. The phone rang and she said, "I'll call you as soon as I can." In the family group, colorful emojis filled the silence. Red hearts, hands clasped in prayer, laughter in stickers. But almost no real words, no whole sentences. Evelyn's messages asking for a visit went unanswered. Emma read everything and felt the void between the symbols. One night, Emma accidentally took her grandmother's cell phone. She opened the list of missed calls and stood there. Michael, Sarah, even a distant cousin, all unanswered. Voice messages waited like letters without an envelope. Emma's heart sank as she pressed play. "Hi Mom, sorry, I'll call you later." "Hey, just checking in, but I'm running late." The voices sounded hurried, always half-hurried. Evelyn treasured each recording as if they were gifts. But the later never really arrived. What no one knew was that Evelyn never deleted anything. Every message, every word spoken, was saved in the device's memory. Maybe it was her way of feeling company. Maybe it was the way of believing that still mattered. Emma realized this was more than a distraction. While her children went about their lives, Evelyn counted coins. Medicines cost more than expected. Energy bills have risen with the harsh winter. And the old car, parked in the garage, no longer started. None of this came to the attention of Michael or Sarah. Michael, on the other hand, spent evenings at business dinners. Crystal gifts, promises of contracts. He smiled, but inside something felt empty. Sometimes I remembered the smell of donuts on Sundays. But he pushed the longing to the back of his mind. Sarah, tired, allowed herself to vent to her friends. She talked about the stress, the lack of support from her husband. But he never mentioned his mother in detail. It was as if talking about Evelyn was opening a heavy closet. Then she would close her mouth, changing the subject. Emma tried to talk to her aunt and uncle on a group call. He explained that Evelyn wasn't doing so well. There was silence on the other end of the line. Then came excuses, too much work, full schedule. Emma hung up feeling like she was alone in this fight. One morning, Evelyn coughed loudly in her room. Emma ran, found her grandmother holding the Bible. "I'm fine, just a cold in my throat," said Evelyn. But the pale face told another story. Emma knew she needed to insist with her children. At breakfast the next morning, Evelyn avoided the subject. He talked about the flowers in the backyard, the bees that returned early. Emma smiled, but brought the health issue back to the table. "You need everyone around, Grandma." Evelyn looked away from her toaster to the toasted bread. Michael received Emma's message in the middle of work. He read it quickly, sighed deeply, and returned to the urgent email. "I'll see later," he thought, throwing his cell phone on the table. The phone rang again. It was the boss. And once again, Evelyn was left behind. Sarah saw the lost connection when she was already exhausted. He looked at his cell phone, hesitated, and put it aside. She promised herself to call on the weekend. But Saturday arrived with school games and appointments. By Sunday, it already seemed too late. Emma, sitting in her room, poured her heart out in her diary. He wrote loose sentences. "They don't understand, they don't see." The tears fell slowly, staining the paper. But there was also hope in every written line. The feeling that something would soon change. The most painful thing was realizing that Evelyn didn't complain. She smiled even when her children were away. He kept apologies like they were Christmas presents. And he still said, "They love me, they're just busy." Emma knew this was half true. One afternoon, Emma took Evelyn to the park. They sat on a bench near the lake, watching ducks. Evelyn spoke of her childhood, of her little children running in the grass. There was pride in his voice, but also a shadow in his eyes. The past seemed more present than the now. In the middle of the conversation, Evelyn took a letter out of her bag. It was a hidden charge from the hospital. Emma held on tight, barely breathing. "Why didn't you tell me any of this?" Evelyn just shrugged, as if she didn't want to weigh in. Meanwhile, Michael was laughing in a fancy restaurant. Sarah organized boxes in the attic. The world was spinning in different directions. Evelyn took a deep breath on the park bench. Emma guarded that letter like someone guarding fire. Emma thought about sending photos of the letter to the group. But he feared it would be interpreted as an exaggeration. Instead, he wrote a long message. He explained every detail, every line of the charge. The answer? Silence for hours. When it finally came, it was cold. "We can't do anything now. We'll talk more later." Emma felt indignation rise, but swallowed it. He decided he would save that anger for the right time. Evelyn's cell phone vibrated on the nightstand. Another missed call, another absent voice. She pressed the button, heard the message, smiled sadly. "They remembered me, that's something." Emma looked at her grandmother with a mixture of tenderness and pain. On a full moon night, Evelyn fell asleep early. Emma lay awake, listening to heavy breathing. He picked up his cell phone and opened his messages again. Saw the entire history of attempts and excuses. And he thought, this can't go on like this. The weeks passed like pages being turned quickly. Consultations, small improvements, discreet relapses. Michael sent flowers once a month. Sarah sent boxes of tea and vitamins. Nice gestures, but no real presents. Evelyn thanked each gift enthusiastically. I kept the cards and put them on the shelves. He spoke of his children as if they were heroes. Emma, however, saw the distance as an abyss. The love was there, but covered in distractions. One Sunday, Evelyn stood looking out the window. The children in the street played ball and laughed loudly. "It was like that when they were little," he murmured. Her gaze was lost in the past. Emma held his hand, feeling the palpable longing. Emma tried once again to reunite the family. He arranged a dinner and sent persistent messages. "It's important, it's serious, you need to come." There were vague promises, answers full of maybes. Emma knew that life's patience had limits. In the kitchen, the clock read 9 o'clock at night. Evelyn sitting with the blanket on her legs. Emma at the side, waiting for the doorbell to ring. But the door remained silent. And dinner slowly cooled on the table. In that heavy silence, Emma made a decision. He knew he could no longer postpone the confrontation. Missed calls would no longer be ignored. The children needed to hear the whole truth. And she would be the one to scream, if necessary. Sundays smelled of hot sugar and brewed coffee. Evelyn tied her apron, singing softly in the kitchen. Emma remembers hearing the dishes clink, like bells. The house on Maple Street woke up unhurriedly, only with gratitude. There was a good secret inside every morning. The tradition began early in the Methodist church. Bible in the bag, knitted blouse, smile in the eyes. The children stayed in the class about the stories of Jesus. Evelyn took a deep breath, as if replenishing her soul. Then came the best part, the bakery on the corner. Mr. Lee kept a box for the Parker family. Vanilla, chocolate and cinnamon donuts, always warm. "You arrived at the right time," he said happily. Evelyn paid with small, carefully folded bills. Little Emma thought it was paradise on cardboard. You won't believe what happened one of those Sundays. While Emma was choosing the strawberry filling, it rained heavily. Evelyn offered her coat to a lady without an umbrella. The lady cried and said she had nothing to eat at home. Evelyn split the box in half without a second's hesitation. What no one knew was that there was little left for Evelyn. She smiled, but counted every penny of her change. Still, he set aside a donut for each child, without fail. And he saved half of his for his next-door neighbor. "Love multiplies when it leaves," she whispered. On the way back, the family passed through the park. Michael ran on the grass, Sarah collected red leaves. Evelyn pointed at the clouds, inventing funny shapes. The afternoon seemed to stretch the hours out of pity. Emma felt like the world fit on that balcony. One day, Evelyn worked at the diner until late at night. Double shift, pained smile, feet burning with fatigue. Still, he woke up early the following Sunday. He set the table nicely and filled the mugs. No one realized how much it hurt to hide the fatigue. In the high cupboard, there was a glass jar of coins. Evelyn called it the jar of promises. Each coin was a little piece of the future for the children. School supplies, shoes, short school trips. She didn't say it, she just did it. One day, Michael found the pot and asked, laughing, "Is this the candy vault?" Evelyn joked that she did, changing the subject. Emma noticed her look, half proud, half apprehensive. There was a story there that begged to be told. The past also had shadows that no one saw. The children's father left the scene too soon. There were broken promises, slammed doors, overdue bills. Evelyn took care of everything with steady hands and tired eyes. Faith became the bridge that would not collapse. Pastor Reed once preached on provision. He said that God opens paths where there seem to be walls. Evelyn kept that phrase like someone keeping medicine. "Each day with its own care," she wrote in the bulletin. Emma saw it and never forgot. And the most amazing thing of all, there was a Sunday when the diner suddenly closed. Evelyn didn't tell anyone, so as not to worry them. He took on odd jobs in the neighborhood, cleaned gardens, and sewed clothes. On Sunday, the table was still full of affection. Sarah grew up thinking that life would always find a way. I didn't know my mother's early morning calculations. Not even the pain of saying no to yourself, to say yes to your children. Evelyn kept the beads as an umbrella for storms. He protected too much, perhaps, without realizing the price. One of those donut Sundays, a white envelope arrived. Blue stamps, bank stamp, impersonal handwriting. Evelyn opened it herself, breathing slowly. He read it, folded it, and carefully put it in the Bible. Emma only saw the edge of the paper, and put the question away. There were also the little miracles of the week. The neighbor Mrs. Johnson left soup at the door. An unexpected discount at the corner market. A saved coupon that saved the month. Evelyn smiled and called it silent provision. On autumn afternoons, the balcony became a story room. Evelyn told of the time she served at the diner. He spoke of loyal customers, of tips that turned into notebooks. From a lady who paid for a stranger's lunch. "Kindness is strong currency," she said. Emma asked about her father, carefully and curiously. Evelyn responded without rancor, just with gentle honesty. There are paths that separate, but God continues. Forgiveness does not erase the memory, but it cleanses the heart. Emma learned and saved like someone who collects light. There was a Sunday when the rain flooded the street. The children played with old boots, laughing loudly. Evelyn hung out towels, dried hair, made hot chocolate. The house smelled of cinnamon and forgiveness. The world outside could wait. What no one knew was that Evelyn felt pain early on. Discreet twinges, dizziness that came and went. She smiled so as not to scare the little ones. And she said to herself, "It will pass, as it always does." The body, however, was already asking for another story. One afternoon, in the sacristy, Evelyn asked for prayer. The deacon held his hands, simple as bread. He spoke of care, of rest, of wisdom. And he quoted Proverbs about honoring parents and the elderly. Evelyn left there a little stronger. Donut Sundays have become a soul tradition. Even when money was tight, she found a way. A discount here, a favor there, a smile everywhere. And the table was never completely empty. Emma swore she would repeat this ritual one day. But there was one detail that caused confusion. Michael wanted a loan for a bold project. Evelyn hesitated, weighed the risks, prayed silently. He said, "Not for now," in a shaky but firm voice. In his heart, The no became a hidden wound. Sarah, in turn, wanted to change cities. He asked for help with the entrance to the apartment. Evelyn helped as much as she could, but not everything. He saved the rest for accounts that no one saw. Sarah interpreted it as a lack of support. "One day they will understand," Evelyn told the Bible. He saved unsent letters inside the cookie tin. He explained every choice, every bill, every tear. But he didn't have the courage to open that lid. He waited for the right time that never seemed to come. At Christmas in a difficult year, the house shone simply. Paper garland, patched lights, soft hymn. Evelyn made delicious, slightly crooked homemade donuts. The children laughed, ate with sugar on their faces. That night held the family together like a bond. As time passed, Sundays became quieter. Michael got a job far away. Sarah moved to another neighborhood. The table still had donuts, but fewer voices. Evelyn continued the tradition as if guarding a flame. Emma grew up and became the guardian of this fire. You can't imagine what Emma discovered years later. At the back of the closet, a box with clippings and receipts. Every expense explained, every gesture of sacrifice. A map of Evelyn's courage on yellowed paper. And a leaflet from the clinic, folded as a secret. The surprise hurt and enlightened at the same time. Emma understood the silence of the no's of old. He saw that love and boundaries go hand in hand. And that some no's paid for vitamins and electricity bills. The past has really started to speak loudly. Still, there was hope pulsing beneath the memories. Emma took fresh donuts to her grandmother on a cold morning. The house was filled with that old Sunday smell. They laughed at the sugar falling on their chins. And they planned to repeat the ritual with all the care. In the church, the choir sang a soft song. Evelyn closed her eyes and breathed as if she were returning home. The message spoke about possible new beginnings. About families that meet again at the right time. Emma squeezed her grandmother's hand, saying, "I'm here." The park was still there, stubborn and beautiful. Kites in the sky, children running, happy dogs. Evelyn and Emma walked slowly, laughing at the memories. They talked about donuts, coupons, rainy days, and what was still worth saving. On the kitchen table, the cookie tin winked an invitation. Emma almost lifted the lid, but stopped halfway. He preferred to respect his grandmother's time and his own courage. I knew that inside lived letters that would change everything, and that the time to read them was approaching. Hope, after all, tasted like sugar and faith. It smelled of coffee and old hymns. She had the hands of a grandmother and the steps of a granddaughter, and a way to make today talk to yesterday, so that tomorrow would not be lost along the way. As the sun set, Emma prepared to say goodbye. He promised to return with flowers and an organized plan. Evelyn smiled, clutching the Bible to her chest. The house breathed as if finding rhythm again, and the clinic's leaflet, inside, asked for a voice. Without closing any doors, Emma walked out into the night. He carried a list of precautions and questions in his pocket. In his heart, he carried donuts, memories, and a mission. Cedar Grove lit its lights like homemade stars, and the truth began to line up words for what was to come. The morning woke up with that cold that clears thoughts. Emma drove slowly to the Cedar Grove Clinic. Evelyn took her knitting bag and her marked Bible. On the car radio, a soft hymn held hands. No one said out loud what they feared inside. The waiting room smelled of disinfectant and weak coffee. Children leafed through old magazines, laughing at the pictures. A couple were talking about Sunday's game. Evelyn observed everything with the eyes of a retired teacher. Emma counted breaths to avoid counting worries. The door opened and the doctor smiled kindly. "I'm Dr. Harris, let's talk calmly." Her voice sounded like a blanket on a windy afternoon. He asked them to sit down, offered them water, and asked if they were sleepy. And he listened more than he spoke, like someone who knows how to wait. "The exams tell a story that we need to read correctly." The doctor placed the papers on the table, without rushing. He spoke of tiredness, which is not just tiredness. Of signals that the body sends before screaming. And care that cannot be postponed until tomorrow. Emma squeezed her fingers together, feeling her skin cold. The heart marked an anxious and gentle rhythm. Evelyn breathed as if saying a short prayer. "You can talk, doctor. I can listen. Perhaps courage really lives in simple words. You won't believe what happened with these results." The doctor pointed out a marker that didn't look good. He spoke of a condition that required a watchful eye. No panic, but no carelessness either. We would need close monitoring, step by step. What no one knew was that Evelyn had been hiding symptoms for months. Stitches, dizziness, a different kind of tiredness than usual. She put a spotlight where it needed to be. For love, for habit, for not wanting to be sad. The doctor called it courage and danger combined. Let's put together a clear plan, with small tasks. Complementary exams, scheduled appointments, medication on time. A routine that fits into life without breaking it. Emma wrote everything down in a little notebook with a flowery cover. The doctor frowned, asking for the family's support. Evelyn smiled toothlessly, shy but firm. "My granddaughter is a strong arm, doctor." Emma nodded, ready to be both buoy and paddle. "I'll be here, no matter what." The phrase hung like a good promise. We will have 2 more exams later this week. One to look at the heart more carefully. Another to measure reserves that are low. No lone hero, the doctor said fondly. Caring also means allowing yourself to be cared for. Nurse Linda appeared with cotton hands. He explained the preparation, smiling with his eyes. He spoke of warm tea, of rest between tasks. He joked that the entire clinic was already rooting for Evelyn. All of humanity could fit in that corridor. The blood was collected with all the care in the world. Evelyn made a joke to ease the tension. Emma breathed along, telling stories of the park. The needle came out, the bandage got a flowery sticker. Small kindnesses sustain big days. During the break, a veteran gentleman started a conversation. He said his faith began in a hospital bed. He spoke of neighbors who became family, and how gratitude changes the taste of coffee. Evelyn listened like someone collecting advice. The doctor came back with a draft route. Explained warning signs and what to do in each case. Discipline for medicine, lightness for the soul. No blame, no fighting, just presence. Emma wrote it down, underlining words as if praying. The surprise came gently, but it hurt when it touched. It wasn't just age saying that the body gets tired. There was a condition asking for respect and care. The good news, it arrived in time to make a difference. The best part, no one had to walk alone. The doctor quoted something that sounded like a Sunday sermon. Day after day, enough for the day. Emma remembered the manna told by the church teacher. God does not waste care, he thought silently. Evelyn smiled, as if recognizing an old message. We will need to review our diet and rest routine. Short walks, water, gentle schedules. Less weight on your shoulders, more rest in your heart. Emma promised to organize the house like a living diary. The doctor thanked her as if she were receiving flowers. Then came the theme that burns without making noise. How is the health plan coverage? Evelyn looked down, searching for the right word. Emma took the lead, saying they would resolve it together. The doctor recommended a support program for the elderly. The social worker, Ms. Carter, arrived with a map and compass. He talked about partner clinics, discounts, and shared transportation. It showed paths that are almost always hidden. There are resources, we just need to ask clearly. Evelyn nodded, grateful and shy. In the parking lot, the wind smelled of dry leaves. Emma adjusted the coat on her grandmother's shoulders. Today you will not carry anything alone. Evelyn laughed, her eyes wet with relief. The sky seemed to open a crack of blue. The pharmacy on the corner had a flashing light. Pharmacist Joe recognized Evelyn from afar. We have your recipe ready, and a chamomile tea on the bill. He explained schedules in a patient coach's voice. Emma left with a bag, a plan and a fixed idea. Back in the kitchen, the clock seemed less grim. Emma stuck reminders on the fridge with blue tape. A glass of water in each room, just in case. Evelyn took the first medicine with a short prayer. May this do good, and may I do my part. Night came like a folded blanket. Emma stayed on the couch, just listening to her breathing. When the cough tried to appear, Honey came into play. The house calmed down like a child after a story, and sleep slowly embraced them both. The next morning, the clinic called early. The voice said that the exams were sent for review. They scheduled a return for midweek. Emma confirmed, already with the calendar in her head. Evelyn thanked him as if he were receiving a guest. Ms. Carter called, offering another thread of support. He spoke of voluntary visits for reading and company, from church solidarity transportation to consultations, and an emergency fund for medical expenses. Emma smiled, thinking that kindness is a two-way street. Evelyn took a deep breath, trying not to flinch. "I don't want to bother anyone, my daughter." Emma responded with a firm hug. To bother is to not ask for help when you need it. Grandma's resistance melted a little. The doctor emailed a care guide. No difficult words, everything clear and human. Suggested small weekly goals, no tired heroes. Emma printed it out, attached it with a donut magnet. Sometimes humor is the right dose of medicine. The phone vibrated with messages from the church. Pastor Reed promised prayers and rides. Mrs. Johnson offered chicken and vegetable soup. Even the Beagle girl asked if she could help. Cedar Grove had a beautiful way of being a town. At lunchtime, Evelyn shared a bit of her fear. He said he was afraid of becoming a burden in his children's lives. Emma replied that weight is what is not said, and that care, when divided, becomes light. The two ate slowly, savoring the courage. You can't imagine what Emma thought at that moment. He remembered the missed calls, the emojis without a phrase. He remembered the promised but never scheduled dinner. And he decided that the truth needed a room and a table. The time for the family to gather was approaching. The afternoon brought light through the sink window. Evelyn folded cloths, as if organizing thoughts. Emma reviewed the accounts and drafted a simple plan. No expensive miracles, just possible steps. Hope fit into small tasks. Before sunset, the discreet surprise came. The clinic has approved transportation for upcoming appointments. A neighbor offered to fix the porch railing, and the pharmacist sent a sample of the supplement. Evelyn called this aligned care. As night fell, Emma read a passage from the Gospel. "Don't be anxious," he said in a low voice. It wasn't a magic wand, it was road management. Evelyn closed her eyes, holding her granddaughter's hand. Silently, they said, "Amen," together. The week's plan was stuck on the fridge. Consultations, schedules, little reminders of affection. Emma drew hearts near the rest goals. Evelyn laughed, calling her granddaughter an artist of hope. Each magnet became a "you can do it," without any fuss. Outside, the crickets tuned the backyard orchestra. The balcony creaked as if approving the script. Emma thought about what she would say to her aunt and uncle without hurting them. The truth would have firmness, but also lap. The family table was already calling for dishes and courage. It was then that Evelyn touched on a delicate subject. He talked about some bills that were beyond his means. From a brown envelope kept at the bottom of the drawer, and an ancient promise that perhaps needed light. Emma listened, and the next step lit up. On the kitchen table, bills were scattered. Folded papers, stamped envelopes, red numbers. Evelyn adjusted her glasses and sighed slowly. Emma looked at each line with suppressed indignation. "How do you carry all this alone, Grandma?" The brown envelope seemed heavier than the others. It was kept at the bottom of the china cabinet drawer. Evelyn ran her hand over it, as if praying silently. I had never shown it to my granddaughter until that day. Emma realized there was more than just numbers there. On the corner of the table, the open Bible waited. An underlined psalm spoke of refuge and strength. Evelyn murmured verses as if breathing fresh air. Faith did not erase the bills, but it changed their weight. Emma wondered how so much silence had fit into so many years. "You won't believe what I found in here." Emma opened one of the collection envelopes. They were exams paid for by credit card. Plots that repeated themselves like hammer blows to the pocket. Evelyn smiled awkwardly. God always finds a way. The neighbor Mrs. Johnson appeared with a pot of soup. He entered without ceremony, as if he knew the way. "I brought chicken with vegetables, good for strength." Evelyn thanked her, hugging her friend like a sister. Emma realized that the neighbors knew more than the children. The old promise appeared in the conversation without warning. Evelyn told about a loan she took out years ago. Money used to pay for studies and save the house. The children never knew, they only received the blessings. Evelyn swore that one day she would tell, but time passed. Michael got through college debt-free because of this effort. Sarah had the entrance to her apartment covered without knowing it. Evelyn signed papers that no one else wanted to see. He paid installments, renegotiated bills, and prayed in silence. Now, interest rates returned like ghosts in the drawer. Emma closed her eyes, swallowing her indignation. "They need to know this, Grandma." Evelyn shook her head with stubborn tenderness. "I don't want you to feel guilty." Emma replied, "The truth doesn't weigh, it sets you free." As they spoke, the radio played a soft hymn. "Great is thy faithfulness, cantava a voce antiga." Evelyn smiled, remembering the church choir. "Every morning, new mercies," he repeated softly. Emma held her hand, feeling the strength of faith. The stack of bills seemed to stare at the two of them. Red letters, expired deadlines, merciless interest. Emma took out her cell phone and started taking notes. He made quick calculations, planned strategies in silence. The granddaughter would not let her grandmother sink alone. Among the paperwork, there were letters stored. Notes from Michael thanking me for graduation. Sarah's cards celebrating her first apartment. Cheerful phrases, unaware of the hidden price. Evelyn kept everything like medals of sacrifice. "Do you remember the jar of coins I had?" Evelyn smiled, remembering the jar of promises. "Well, dear, that pot wasn't enough." Her eyes grew moist, but steady. "That's why I signed papers that I didn't tell anyone about." Emma took a deep breath, trying to contain her anger. Not from the grandmother, but from the unfair situation. "They need to understand what you did for them." Evelyn replied, "You will understand in God's time." Emma decided that time needed to be now. At that moment, the phone rang. It was the social worker, Ms. Carter. He was talking about a renegotiation program for the elderly. Emma listened carefully, taking note of every detail. A door of hope opened in the middle of the pile. Evelyn sighed, relieved to see paths. "I don't want handouts, just dignity." Emma replied firmly, "And you will." Grandmother's faith was an anchor, but it needed action. The balance between prayer and action was clear. The neighborhood also started to appear more. One left fresh bread, another offered to fix the gate. Even the Beagle girl brought flowers from the backyard. Evelyn received each gesture as an answered prayer. Emma saw their confirmation that no one walks alone. You have no idea what Emma found at the bottom of the pile. An old letter, written in one's own hand. It was a promise made by Evelyn to her deceased husband. "I will take care of them, whatever the cost." Emma read silently, feeling a lump in her chest. Tears flowed, but Evelyn smiled. "It was my mission, my dear. And I don't regret it." Emma hugged her grandmother as if she were holding the world. The house fell silent, hearing only the clock. And that oath echoed like an ancient bell. At dinner, Emma served Mrs. Johnson's soup. The warm smell filled the kitchen with comfort. Evelyn gave thanks in a low voice in prayer. He asked for strength for the following days, wisdom for Emma, and faith that the truth would not be too harsh. On the shelf, the brown envelope caught attention again. Emma held it, feeling the real and symbolic weight. "One day we will open this up in front of everyone." Evelyn nodded, still hesitantly. "But I knew the time was approaching." The bills remained on the table, but in a different way. They weren't monsters, they were tasks to be solved. Emma scribbled deadlines, organized piles, made lists. Evelyn just watched, between pride and guilt. The granddaughter had inherited more than eyes, she had inherited courage. At the end of the night, the Bible returned to his lap. Evelyn read a passage from Proverbs in a firm voice. "Children are the crown of the elderly." Emma listened, understanding the weight and beauty. But he thought, a crown also needs care. The wind came in through the window with the smell of rain. Evelyn adjusted the blanket over her knees. Emma turned off the lights, leaving only the table lamp on. The kitchen seemed to breathe with them, and the brown envelope waited, like a keeper of secrets. In the early morning, Emma woke up with a thought. What if the children never know everything? He felt that their pain would come in another form. The guilt for not having seen, for not having been careful. And he decided that hiding was no longer an option. The sun rose and brought the smell of fresh coffee. Evelyn prepared 2 mugs, as always. But there was something different in the air. Emma felt a cycle was about to break. And the next step would not be small. Evelyn carefully closed the Bible. He looked at Emma and said, "When you speak, speak with love." The granddaughter nodded, already remembering the sentence. I knew the truth would come out loud soon, and that the ancient promise would finally be revealed. On the table, the calendar showed a birthday coming up. Emma noticed the detail with a heavy heart. That day always brought more silence than celebration. Evelyn looked away, stirring her soup. But Emma already knew this would be the next chapter. The morning dawned with the smell of simple cake. Emma woke up early and made coffee on time. In the bowl, sugar, eggs, vanilla, faith. Cedar Grove still yawned through the windows. It was Evelyn's birthday, and the world didn't seem to know. The house was decorated with small balloons and discreet ribbons. A flower arrangement from the corner market. Handmade cards with blue ink. Emma tested the candle and laughed to herself. Her heart was beating. It will work, it will. You won't believe what happened mid-morning. Emma looked at her phone, waiting for messages. The family group, silent, just echo. No congratulations. No, we're on our way. A heavy silence like the sky before rain. Evelyn came down slowly, lilac-knitted coat. He saw the table and put his hand to his chest. How beautiful, dear. You didn't need to. I needed it, yes. I really needed it. Emma hugged her grandmother as if she were holding an entire day. What no one knew was that Evelyn pretended to forget dates. It was the gentle way of protecting the heart. If hugs came, it would be a gift. If they didn't come, faith would hold the rest together. Emma knew, so she filled the house with little sparkles. On the stove, the chocolate melted gently. The kitchen looked like a souvenir shop. Evelyn cut strawberries with the calm of a teacher. They laughed at old diner stories. Time, for a moment, was on their side. Emma set the table with her favorite dish. White tablecloth, napkins with little flowers. He put the radio on conversation volume. A gentle hymn, an ancient love song. And the clock, stubborn, ran too slowly. In the living room, the family portrait stared at the two. Michael and Sarah, children, wide smiles. Sundays in the park, donuts in the color. Evelyn touched the frame, her eyes welling up. They were so small, time flies. Emma took a breath, picked up her phone again. He wrote in the group with sweet firmness. Today is her big day. Are you coming? The message has a single blue tick. Silence responded like an empty room. Outside, the neighborhood made its beloved noises. The postman sighed, the beagle sighed. Mrs. Johnson appeared with flowers from the yard. To brighten up life, he said, winking. Evelyn welcomed it as if it were spring. Sarah finally sent a hurried emoji. A heart, a confetti, no schedule. Michael responded with, busy day, rain check. Emma felt her heart warm and then freeze. But he took a deep breath, without giving in to tears. The cake came out of the oven smelling like a party. Emma did a great job on the coverage, simple and beautiful. Evelyn blew out the candle prematurely, out of nervousness. I made a request, she confessed shyly. Emma didn't ask which one. She preferred to keep it a mystery. The house phone rang at the wrong time. Of those touches that don't match longing. Emma answered with a practiced smile. On the other side, a clinical voice. We need to talk about the exam authorization. The cutting information came without embellishment. The plan required confirmation from a registered responsible person. Evelyn alone could not authorize that procedure. Michael and Sarah were listed as primary contacts. No one had answered the clinic's calls for days. Emma closed her eyes as if she had been pushed. Does this postpone the exam? He asked firmly. It does, and it shouldn't, replied the polite voice. "We need this resolved as soon as possible." The cake suddenly lost some of its sweetness. Evelyn felt the weight of the news in the air. "Don't hide anything from me, Emma," the granddaughter explained, line by line, without blaming. He spoke of bureaucracy and love that needs to become presents. Evelyn nodded, eyes downcast but full of courage. At lunch, they ate slowly, between breaks. Emma held Evelyn's hand, warm and small. "I'll solve this today." "No fighting?" asked the grandmother gently. "No fighting, truth be told," Emma replied. The afternoon brought sepia-toned memories. Old cards, sticky notes from children. Evelyn showed a box with colorful ribbons. "I kept everything because each piece of paper was a hug." Emma understood each fold as a prayer. In the middle of the box, an unsigned card. "For the mother who doesn't let go of our hand." Evelyn smiled, surprised at herself. Maybe it was Michael, maybe it was Sarah. Emma kept the card as a clue back. You can't imagine what Emma decided at that moment. He opened the calendar on the fridge and marked a date. Dinner at Cedar Grove, table full, chairs added. "No excuses this time, please." The pen left a trace of courage on the page. Late in the afternoon, the church called to sing happy birthday. Friendly voices on the phone, affection that runs through wires. Pastor Reed left a blessing from afar. "Honor to those who honor, care to those who care." Evelyn cried a little, but with joy. Emma went to Walgreens to buy extra candles. In the card aisle, he read ready-made phrases. None of them really seemed to fit. He bought a simple one and wrote it in his own handwriting. "Words that embrace have the accent of someone who loves." Back, he found the house quieter. Evelyn rested in the armchair, blanket on her knees. On the table, 2 slices of cake waiting for company. Emma sat down and toasted with coffee. "Happy birthday, Grandma. Today and always." What no one knew was that Sarah almost called. He kept his finger hovering over the button. He thought about the traffic, the tasks, the tiredness. He swallowed an "I'm going," and didn't go. Guilt whispered softly, but she kept quiet. Michael, in the office, saw the reminder on the calendar. He sighed, looking at the bare wall. "I'd give anything for 5 minutes on the porch swing." But the contract asked for his soul, again. He promised to call tonight. Promises are tiring. And the most amazing thing of all, the one who showed up was someone no one expected. The clinic veteran brought a card from the support group. "To the lady who smiles for everyone." Evelyn laughed like a girl. Life has these twists and turns. As night fell, Emma set up a small table in the backyard. Simple lights, blankets on the chairs, the moon as an accomplice. They both sang happy birthday, laughing at the improvisation. Faith joined in, the wind applauded softly. Hope is also knowing how to create celebration in little. Soon after, the phone rang again. It was Ms. Carter, with the voice of someone carrying a map. "I got a direct contact on the plane. If someone signs today, the exam goes back on the calendar." Emma thanked him, her heart finding breath. Evelyn sweetly suggested a gesture. "Before we go to sleep, let's pray for your uncles." They asked for wisdom, discernment, gentle courage, and that the truth would not turn into stone, but into a bridge. The kitchen looked like a chapel. Emma wrote a new, blunt message. "I need you today for your mother." He talked about the exam, the authorization, the clock. He asked them to answer, "Please, really." Hope went to sleep sitting on the edge of the sofa. In the early hours of the morning, Sarah responded with reticence. He said he would call early and promised to try to adjust. Michael sent a short, "Let's figure it out." Small words, but a step. Emma put away the phone like a dry match. Dawn came with the scent of a new beginning. Evelyn opened the Bible to a psalm of gratitude. Emma made scrambled eggs, stronger coffee. On the fridge, the calendar shone like a beacon. The dinner date was there, unavoidable. On the door, Emma hung a simple wreath. It wasn't Christmas, but it was time to arrive. The house was beginning to look like a meeting place. Extra chairs leaned against the wall, waiting. And one more dish on the table, by Faith. Deep down, Evelyn feared an absence. But he chose hope, like someone who chooses light clothing. Today is a day of life, not of lack. Emma kissed her forehead, firmly, and he left the cake in sight, like a sweet promise. When the clock struck late afternoon, the phone vibrated. The clinic would confirm the fit if there was a signature. Ms. Carter lined up the papers, all ready. All that was missing was the yes that became the key. Emma knew where to look for that yes. Without closing the story, the night lit its lamp. The table was set, the cutlery was lined up courageously. The doorbell hadn't rung yet, but the air was already waiting. Emma took a deep breath, the truth rehearsing in her throat. The next step required a full room and eye contact. The Cedar Grove house smelled of garlic and butter. Emma lined up the cutlery like someone lining up courage. Simple candles, cotton napkins, lemon water. Evelyn straightened her knitting, trying to look calm. The clock marked the pace of what was to come. Michael arrived first, tense, tie loose. He looked around as if looking for a way out. "Sorry I'm late," he said, without looking her in the eye. Sarah walked in soon after, hair tied up, breathing shallow. "I did my best to come," he murmured, putting down his bag. The silence in the room seemed like a third guest. Emma served the chicken and put warm bread in the basket. Evelyn thanked him with a short, sweet prayer. "Thank you for our daily bread and the chance to start over." Their hands touched for a moment, shyly. You won't believe what happened in the first few minutes. Michael brought up a contract in Columbus. Sarah talked about tasks, traffic, endless commitments. Emma listened to everything, breathing slowly, counting until hope. Evelyn smiled to keep the table from cracking. The granddaughter tried to start gently. He asked about the week, offered more sauce. But the lump in my throat just got tighter. The message from the clinic hammered inside. Faith said, "Truth in love," the heart said, now. Emma placed the clinic papers on the table. "We need to sign this today." Michael frowned, reflexively defensive. Sarah glanced at it and looked away, as if she had burned her finger. Evelyn squeezed the napkin until it wrinkled. "Is it just bureaucracy?" Michael asked impatiently. "No," Emma replied, firm and meek. "It's care. It's presence. It's her life." The word life filled the room like a bell. The wind outside held its breath. What no one knew was that Emma had been rehearsing. Whole sentences, pauses, even the tone of voice. She tried once again to propose calm. "Let's listen with our hearts, please." Michael looked at his phone. Sarah looked down. Then Emma stood up. He looked at each one in turn. No more missed calls. The voice trembled, and came out louder than he expected. "Enough of loving from afar as if it were love. You ignored important calls. She is sick and has been hiding it for you. Exams require authorization and company. You can't outsource your own mother." The truth flashed across the table like a clean bolt of lightning. Michael tried to respond with numbers and deadlines. "My boss, my schedule, my goals." Emma cut in with firm tenderness. "Goals don't make soup, they don't lead to the clinic. Love without presence is a forgotten voice message." Sarah put her hand to her mouth, startled. "I sent vitamins, I sent tea." Emma nodded, no irony, just clear. "Thank you. But who holds the hand when the cough gets tight?" Evelyn wiped the corner of her eyes quietly. You can't imagine how the air changed in that instant. The clock stopped making noise in the background. Michael stared at the old photo on the wall. Sarah looked at her empty hands. Evelyn, small, seemed bigger than everything. Emma took a breath and went beyond the obvious. "He told me about the brown envelope in the drawer. From the old loan that financed someone else's future. Of the no's who paid electricity and medicine bills. Of letters that were never sent, kept out of fear. She chose you 1,000 times and got the rest. Honor is not an emoji in the family group. Honor is showing up with a coat when it gets cold. It's signing papers, driving at night, washing the dishes. It's listening without a ready-made excuse." Michael loosened his tie as if loosening armor. I didn't know any of this." Evelyn tried to soothe the pain with sweetness. "I didn't tell you so as not to weigh you down," Sarah whispered. "It was heavy anyway." The surprise came like cold water, and yet it cleaned. Michael asked for the papers, read them word for word. Sarah picked up a pen, eyes flickering with guilt and affection. Emma explained each line with bridge-like patience. Evelyn breathed a little easier, as if she were returning home. In the middle of signing, the doorbell rang. It was Mrs. Johnson with a plate of apple pie. "Just to sweeten the mood," she said, without intruding. The neighborhood knew about the pain that the family forgot. Good sometimes arrives without asking the way. Michael held the pie like someone holding history. "Remember when you used to take us to the park after church?" Evelyn laughed softly. "And you stole cherries from the basket." The room gained color, as if memory opened a window. "The guilt doesn't go away, but you can learn to walk." Sarah placed her hand over Evelyn's. "Forgive me for not seeing." Evelyn reciprocated with a touch that was a blessing. "Daughter, forgiveness is the road back." Emma smiled inwardly, recognizing the lived sermon. Faith entered the conversation, barefoot. Not in a harsh sermon tone, but in a lap tone. "Honoring your father and mother is a daily thing, not a holiday. Faith without works is a promise without food on the table." No one debated, everyone understood. Michael took a breath, quickly wiping his eyes. "I will take turns going to the clinic." Sarah added, "I organize pharmacy and meals." Emma took notes, dividing up tasks like someone sharing bread. Evelyn smiled with teeth and soul. The food finally tasted good. The chicken, previously cold, found warmth again. Shy giggles appeared between bites. The table became a patchwork workshop. Guilt became a task, the task became care. Emma kept the pace going with short stories. From the veteran who brought a card. From the pharmacist who explained patiently. From the church support program. Each example opened a window of, "We can do it." Michael took out his cell phone and deleted an appointment. "Today I stay until the end." Sarah silenced notifications and pulled up a chair. "I want to hear everything from the beginning." Evelyn told it in chapters, without hiding the difficult part. You won't believe what emerged from the memories. The Sunday donut story is back in full swing. The coupons, the coin jar, the late diner. The nose, who paid for notebooks and electricity bills. Michael and Sarah were getting smaller inside, more children. The table turned into a diary drawing on the tablecloth. Consultation days, carpooling, combined soups. Shared calendar, tasks with first and last name. Emma put hearts on the rest days. Evelyn promised to obey, laughing at her own stubbornness. However, there was something still unsaid. Emma sensed the presence of a greater secret. The china cabinet drawer seemed to look back. The cookie tin, silent, called out by name. Sarah noticed the metallic shine, curious without knowing why. Before getting up, Emma closed the circle of the moment. "Thank you for really being here. Today we start again." Michael nodded. Sarah squeezed her mother's hand. Evelyn rested her head against the headrest, feeling a sense of peace. The night outside turned into a neighborhood hug. Slow footsteps on the sidewalk, warm lights in the windows. The house breathed along with the people. The radio played an old hymn, softly. "Grace that finds us," sang the voice. Emma collected the dishes and washed them slowly. Michael dried, Sarah stored, Evelyn recounted memories. The kitchen has become a choreography of care. The sound of water sounded like a routine baptism. Guilt, there, found honest work. On the couch, a conversation without excuses. Plans for doctors, finances, and errands arranged. "No more one-line messages," Emma said. "No more guilty silences," Sarah said. "No more hidden heroism," Michael said. Faith closed the night with a simple word. "Thank you, Lord, for the full table and the chance to correct." No one corrected the prayer, no one was ironic. It was the right phrase for a right beginning. Evelyn slept with a light forehead. When everyone said goodbye, Emma stayed in the room. He looked at the china cabinet, at the shine of the can. He felt that history still had cards to be read. Letters that could change the version of everything. The hand almost went to the lid. Almost. In the hallway, Evelyn called softly, "Daughter, tomorrow we'll see what's in the can." Emma smiled, her heart racing and gentle. "Together," he replied, as if sealing a pact. The clock agreed with a gentle click. The porch creaked under the Cedar Grove moon. The neighbor's beagle barked once, and stopped. Michael texted, "Signed," and "Present." Sarah added, "Tomorrow morning, clinic." Emma put away her cell phone, not forgetting the shining metal. The night, then, kept the secret with a key of hope. The house slept, but did not untie the knot. The wind brought the smell of apples and old paper. The truth had more to reveal. And the tin of cookies waited patiently in the cabinet. The morning dawned with a curious silence. The china cabinet reflected a timid patch of sunlight. Emma placed the tin of cookies on the table. Evelyn placed her hand on top, taking a deep breath. It seemed like the house knew what was coming. The can had faded cherry designs on it. The metal held an ancient, almost respectful cold. Emma heard the soft click of the lid giving way. "Ready?" he asked in a church whisper. Evelyn nodded, eyes moist, courage galvanized. You won't believe the sound that made. A sigh of old paper, vanilla scent. Satin ribbons hugging yellowed envelopes. Polaroids with white borders, smiles from other years. And a tired rubber band holding secrets. At the top, a note, to be read when there are arms. The handwriting was round, like that of a patient teacher. Evelyn played the note as if playing a psalm. Emma ran her finger along the edges carefully. The whole time fit in that pile. The first letter had, "My Michael," at the top. Old date, blue ink, a meek confession. She explained the "not for now" of the past. Between your dream and our almost lost home, I chose to guarantee shelter and light. Forgive your mother. What nobody knew was the weight of that almost. There was an execution notice kept with it. Severe stamp, short deadline, sleepless night. Emma read slowly, feeling the ground tremble gently. Evelyn wiped the corners of her eyes, still firm. Emma turned the page and found bank receipts. Deposits chopped, pennies turning into shelter. A note, "God provides, but I do my part." Faith there had the body of a cue and a pen. And a tiredness that didn't ask for applause. The next letter said, "My Sarah, my song." Evelyn talked about the entrance to the apartment. He showed every coupon, every extra hour at the diner. "I wanted to give you a foothold, even though my knees hurt. If there was more missing, it was because there was less left in me." There was a receipt from the clinic folded inside. "I rescheduled my physical therapy, daughter. I preferred your beginning to my relief." Emma placed her hand on Evelyn's, speechless. The room was the size of a hug. In a smaller envelope, a secret shone shyly. A pawn ticket with an old stamp. Description, wedding ring, plain gold. Evelyn didn't look at Emma, she looked at the towel. "It was just a while, dear." It became a notebook and a registration. You can't imagine what Emma felt. Sweetness and indignation walking hand in hand. I wanted to scream and thank at the same time. That had to be said. Evelyn smiled. I was afraid it would hurt more than it would help. Among the letters, a church bulletin. A circle around "Offer for families in crisis." Pencil note, "Give a little even with little." Emma remembered the lady with the umbrella. Generosity without an audience, Evelyn's signature. Another photo fell out of the stack, like a good scare. Diner customers holding a brown envelope. On the back, "To the Parkers, with love." Bribe turning into pillow on a night of distress. Evelyn treasured the moment like someone who treasures bread. There was also a letter with a bank stamp. Proof of renegotiation that saved the house. High interest, long terms, long patience. I signed it myself so as not to scare you. Emma felt a knot that turned into a prayer. And then a different letter appeared. Written by his father, with a trembling hand, years before. "Take care of them, Eve. I didn't hear." Short sentences, regret with the scent of rain. And an apology that was worth the world. Evelyn clutched the paper to her chest. "I promised I would take care of it, no matter what." Emma saw the whole line of life there. Promise, silence, work, quiet faith, and accounts that became stories of protection. The open Bible on the table seemed to agree. Proverbs doubled on honor and prudence. Emma read quietly, without raising any flags. Love that corrects course, love that bears weight. Evelyn responded with an "Amen" from someone who knows the road. Emma took a breath and made a plan in a soft voice. Let's show this to Michael and Sarah. No blaming, just shining a light. Evelyn hesitated for a second, then nodded. If it's a bridge, I'll cross it again. The bell rang as a prearranged signal. Michael and Sarah arrived with the look of someone who came to stay. Coffee in a pitcher, Mrs. Johnson's apple pie. The house was prepared like someone opening a temple. Emma placed the can in the center, without a word. You won't believe the silence that followed. Michael read his entire letter without blinking. Sarah held hers with both hands. Polaroids circulated like Sunday relics. The air was filled with "Now I see." When Michael found the ring pawn, he stopped. His lips trembled, he took off his tie. Did you sell your ring for me? Evelyn smiled with a mother's sweetness. I sold for us. And I bought hope. Sarah found the receipt for the postponed physical therapy. Short breath, quick tear, hand over mouth. You hurt so I could live better. Evelyn touched her daughter's face, without drama. House standing, heart at peace. Another surprise came out of the bottom of the can. A letter from a church reform program. Invitation accepted, but never used out of modesty. We can change the handrail, paint, fix the roof. Emma saw a future all traced by hands. The clinic veteran had signed on as a volunteer. The list included the shepherd, the mailman, the girl with the beagle. Everyone was ready, all that was missing was a yes. Michael looked up with new resolve. Then let's say yes today. Sarah pulled out her notebook. Divided tasks, wrote names, schedules. I take care of medications and groceries. I talk to the clinic and the bank, Michael said. Emma connected Ms. Carter to the family group. Evelyn asked to speak in a small voice. Forgive me for the long secret. I just wanted to protect you from the weight. Michael and Sarah leaned in together. Now we want to hold it with you. Faith entered again, barefoot and soft. Grace for those who err for love. Grace to those who learn in time. They prayed hand in hand, without speeches. Just a "thank you" that filled the kitchen. The can, however, was not yet empty. There was one envelope left with a different seal. On the front, "For when the house is full." Emma raised her eyebrow, curious. Evelyn smiled. Maybe tomorrow. Michael stopped by Walgreens and brought folders. He organized letters, receipts, photos, with care. Sarah photographed everything and saved it to the cloud. No more secrets lost in the china cabinet. The family seemed to become a team, finally. In the late afternoon, the house gained a different sound. Neighbors' hammer, laughter from the backyard, firm steps. Mrs. Johnson appeared with a list of volunteers. A boy from church offered a ladder and paint. Cedar Grove moved like coral. Emma glanced at the worn porch railing. Imagined a new hand, fresh paint, air breathing better. He thought about the scheduled exams, now without any mishaps. He saw the agenda full of presences, not excuses. And he felt hope turn on little lights. Evelyn poured tea and smiled. I thought this can protected me. Now I see that she was protecting you from what was true. Emma rested her head on her shoulder. Truth with love becomes a new home. Night fell with a plum-colored sky. Outside, the streetlights twinkled peacefully. Michael took a trash bag. Sarah washed the cups. Emma dried slowly, putting away each plate. Evelyn remained in the chair, embraced by her own house. There was still one step that everyone felt. One last yes to turning wallpaper into painted walls. A phone call to confirm the renovation team. A bank adjustment, a calendar on the fridge. The heart of the house called for tools and praise. The can returned to the cabinet, lighter. Not as a secret, but as a memorial. Proof of love turned into life. Letters that fixed conversations. and an envelope that promised the next chapter. In the hallway, Emma carefully turned off the light. She promised herself donuts on Sunday, and a visit to Home Depot on Saturday. Faith already had a list of materials. Love had a possible budget. The kitchen clock started breathing at the right rhythm again. Evelyn adjusted the blanket, as calm as an afternoon in the park. Michael texted, "Tomorrow morning, Roof." Sarah added, "I bring paint and soups." Emma closed her eyes gratefully, ready for the next step. Without closing the doors, the chapter withdrew. The house was full of arms and plans. The sealed envelope waited, flashing promises. The balcony, still tired, called for repairs. And the family's heart beat strongly, calling for dawn. The morning arrived with the smell of wood and promise. The Cedar Grove sidewalk gained determined steps. Emma opened the door, shirt rolled up, clipboard simple. Evelyn adjusted her knitting, trying to hide her emotion. The house seemed to hold its breath, waiting for hammers and hugs. On the fridge, a colorful calendar guided everything. Clinic days, paint days, soup days. Names scattered like seeds in good soil. Emma pointed out each task in a huggable voice. Today, balcony and roof. Tomorrow, rest and tea. Michael arrived with tools borrowed from his neighbor. He had the look of an executive learning to be a craftsman. Missing nails, getting the rhythm of care right. "I can do it," he repeated, so that he could hear himself. Evelyn chuckled softly, proud of the big boy. Sarah showed up with boxes from Walgreens and Kroger. Soups, fruits, a colorful medicine organizer. A new notebook for notes and schedules. "No confusion, just clarity," he said, taking a deep breath. Emma smiled. The language of love now had checklists. Pastor Reed brought a team from the church. Experienced hands, tools with a mission history. They prayed quickly, without speeches, just direction. "May this roof keep health and peace." And they began, like someone who sings while working. Mrs. Johnson appeared with lemonade and light jokes. The beagle sniffed attention and gained affection. The street looked like an organized group of good people. Extra chairs appeared, laughter filled the yard. Evelyn realized she wasn't really alone. They chose the color for the balcony, between laughs. A shade of blue that reminded me of Sunday mornings. "The color of the sky after rain," said Emma. Michael agreed, brush already in hand. The wood drank hope in each coat. Evelyn stubbornly tried to get up to help. Emma held her tightly and gently. "Your job today is to tell stories." The grandmother accepted, opening the chest of memories. Words became music for tired hands. The playlist mixed anthems and old Motown. Aretha sang Victory, a choir whispered Grace. The hammer struck the beat, laughing with the nails. Sarah tapped on the table like someone dancing in prayer. The house shrugged and fell into step. "You won't believe what happened in the middle of the morning." Michael answered a call from the bank, his heart in his mouth. He talked about the history, the letters, the mother's age. The manager listened, human, and opened a door. Renegotiation approved, shorter deadlines, real breathing space. Ms. Carter arrived with papers and a smile. He explained the benefits to which Evelyn was entitled. Solidarity transport, reading visits, partial assistance. Nothing humiliating, everything dignified and possible. Evelyn cried softly, thanking for the paths. Pharmacist Joe stopped by at lunchtime. I brought a weekly organizer with colorful labels. He taught schedules like someone teaching dance steps. "No tired hero, just constancy," he joked. Emma wrote it down. Sarah tested it. Evelyn nodded. The stair railing got new screws. Every turn of the key seemed to stir up old guilt. Michael measured, checked, tightened again. "Now your hand has somewhere to rest," he said. Evelyn ran her fingers through it, returning a "thank you." On the roof, the veteran arranged the tiles with precision. He told stories of battle that included new beginnings. Michael listened in silence, learning humility. "Courage is coming when it's hard," said the veteran. The sky smiled behind the clouds. Brake brought donuts from the bakery on the corner. Open box, sugar in the corner of the mouth, laughter. Evelyn bit slowly, old Sunday eyes. Memory served coffee to everyone. Hope tastes like sweet dough and hugs. Inside the house, Emma attacked the stationery. New folders, clear labels, aligned accounts. No more monsters hidden in the drawer. Everything visible, everything combinable with budget. The table became a freedom office. Sarah took a deep breath and found Emma in the kitchen. "Thank you for holding me when I disappeared." Emma didn't make a speech, she just shook her hand. "We'll hold on together from now on." Forgiveness came in and pulled up a chair. Evelyn watched the two of them, eyes full of blessing. He quietly quoted a passage from the Gospel. "Love that shows itself is better than love that only promises." No one argued, everyone understood. Faith there seemed like a lukewarm cloth for a fever. A heavy cloud brought surprise rain. Blue tarp, gentle running, laughter under raindrops. No one complained, it was almost child's play. Michael tested the canvas as a peace flag. The roof held, and the afternoon continued valiantly. The power flickered and left the room in darkness. Lanterns appeared like obedient fireflies. Evelyn gave a short, undramatic prayer. The light came back on, and someone clapped reflexively. Miracles are sometimes electric and discreet. On the whiteboard, Emma drew a carpool map. Tuesdays for consultations, Thursdays for physiotherapy, Saturdays for rest. Arrows connecting Columbus, Nashville and Cedar Grove. Names next to each other, no space for maybe. Logistics has become a weekly concern. Sarah assembled the medicine box slowly. Morning, afternoon, night, everything marked with care. "No guessing, no skipping doses," he said. Evelyn promised to obey, laughing at her own stubbornness. Fidelity became a pill with water and faith. At the thrift store on the corner, they found a porch chair. Firm wood, gentle curve, price of blessing. Michael sanded, Emma varnished, Sarah decorated. Evelyn sat and smiled as if she were meeting the sea. The balcony gained a grandmother's throne. Michael decided to cook some bold chili. He got the salt wrong, got the laughter right, served with pride. The family ate the practice of asking for help. "Love is also experimenting in the kitchen," said Emma. The stove listened and let out a satisfied sigh. The postman, who is also a neighbor, brought good news. A friendly inspection and maintenance tips. Change filters, take care of gutters, prevent blockages. Simple things that prevent expensive storms. Emma wrote everything down in large, calm handwriting. The last coat of paint brought the smell of new beginnings. The balcony was the size of the plans. The blue looked bluer in the late afternoon. Evelyn placed her foot cautiously on the new floor. "It was beautiful," he said, with a grateful soul. In the attic, Emma found a music box. He turned the crank, and a hymn was born in small notes. Evelyn recognized the melody and closed her eyes. "Grace upon grace," he sang softly. The air became sweet as a child's prayer. On the table, the sealed envelope winked in remembrance. "For when the house is full," said the cover. It wasn't time yet, but almost. Emma kept it within reach, not far away. The secret remained tame, awaiting understanding. The afternoon lay in the yard like a lazy cat. The tools went back into their boxes, still smiling. Mrs. Johnson brought pie and blessings for dessert. The beagle gained fame and a reputation as a helper. The neighborhood said goodbye, promising, "See you soon." A family photo was born on the new balcony. No filters, no rush, just truth on your face. Michael and Sarah closer than yesterday. Evelyn in the center, as if holding the axis. Emma pressed the button and saved the miracle. In the midst of laughter, the phone rang seriously. Clinic number, professional voice, calm message. Results ready, return scheduled for dawn. Gentle silence filled the room for a second. Emma thanked him and wrote it down, her heart focused. No one dramatized, they preferred to prepare the way. Water on the table, coat set aside, documents ready. They prayed briefly, ate pie, and breathed together. The new routine embraced the noiseless night. Hope is the discipline that knows how to wait. Before going to sleep, Emma wrote down a sweet reminder. Donut Sunday as soon as possible. Evelyn smiled, eyes like a girl in a church pew. The blue of the balcony blinked in agreement. The heart of the house asked for music for another day. The Cedar Grove moon rose like a porch lamp. The windows breathed quietly, contentedly, and alertly. On the calendar, an arrow pointed to tomorrow. In the hallway, the envelope waited like a beacon. And the family, without closing the chapter, called the next Sunday. The sun made its way through the curtains like a whisper. Cedar Grove smelled of brewed coffee and wet grass. Emma parked in front of the newly painted blue house. Evelyn straightened her knitting and smiled inwardly. Sunday had become Sunday again. On the porch, the new swing called for the first flight. Evelyn touched the wood, feeling history and varnish. Emma offered her arm, unhurriedly. "Today is light, Grandma. Today is ours." The wind agreed with a wave of leaves. The Methodist Church felt like a long hug. Open Bibles, hymns that we already know by heart. Pastor Reed spoke of possible new beginnings, of tables that bring people together again, and how grace stitches together what was torn. Mrs. Johnson sat in the back seat, smiling. The veteran waved the folded report card. Even the pharmacist Joe showed up with his family. Cedar Grove fit entirely in that hallway. Evelyn felt her shoulders lose their old weight. "You won't believe what the clinic told you earlier." The return call brought some good news. Examinations showed improvement under close care. Treatment plan maintained, small loving adjustments. No heroism, all constancy. Michael read a psalm in an unexpectedly firm voice. Sarah led the family prayers, her eyes brimming with tears. Emma shook Evelyn's hand, promising her presence. The choir softly sang, "Grace upon grace." And the amen sounded like a beginning, not an end. After the service, Mr. Lee's bakery was alight. He held up the box labeled, "Parker." Vanilla and cinnamon donuts, strawberry on the house. "Family that comes back takes extra candy," he joked. Evelyn laughed, sugar of hope in her fingers. The park welcomed them with ducks and souvenirs. Wooden benches, children running, insistent beagle. Michael clumsily threw the bread roll into the lake. Sarah carefully adjusted her mother's scarf. Emma wrote down appointments in the floral-covered notebook. In his pocket, the envelope with a different seal was waiting. "For when the house is full," said the soft handwriting. They sat at the picnic table, breathing courage. Evelyn broke the seal as if opening a prayer. Inside, a letter to the future. "If you're reading, it's because I'm not alone anymore." Evelyn's handwriting looked younger on that paper. "Remember to laugh, to ask for help, to share tasks. Choose one Sunday a month just for us." The letter smelled of donuts and clear skies. Michael stared at the date at the bottom and swallowed hard. "I thought giving money was enough." His voice came without armor, just truth. "I want to learn the rest, Mom." Evelyn touched his face, just like when he was a boy. Sarah took a breath and chose her own truth. "I wanted to get it right so much that I ran away from the difficult. I promised to show up with less explanation and more hugs." Evelyn kissed his forehead, giving him peace. Emma wrote, "Hugs before warnings." They returned home with small laughs. Lunch was Michael's chili and Sarah's salad. Emma turned the radio to conversation volume. The smell of garlic and tomatoes made the room sing. The table waited unhurriedly, with cutlery lined up. What no one knew was the surprise in the backyard. The neighborhood gathered a silent gift. A discreet sign with the name Evelyn's Balcony. Screws, smiles, a blue ribbon on the tip, and a chorus of "Welcome to the new chapter." They installed the gift in minutes of joy. Evelyn sat on the swing with queenly care. His hands found firm support on the new handrail. The sky seemed closer there. Emma stored the scene in the soul box. And the most amazing thing of all came next. Michael and Sarah took a simple ring out of a small box. Gentle gold, engraved inside, faith and family. "It's not to replace, it's to remember," they said. Evelyn cried a smile, choosing the hug. It wasn't about metal, it was about lace. It was about putting on the finger what was already beating in the chest. It was about saying, "I'm here," without difficult lines. And about not letting love become an excuse. The kitchen applauded with silent pans. In the afternoon, The street looked like an old toy. Children on bikes, the mailman leaving his shift. Mrs. Johnson brought lemonade and blessings. The veteran explained how to take care of the roof. Everyone taught, everyone learned. Emma reviewed the calendar with a mother's calm. Tuesdays with Michael, Thursdays with Sarah, Saturdays free. Donut Sundays marked with a heart. Consultations, pharmacy, market, everything in one place. The routine has become a promise that never fails. Evelyn opened the Bible to the Gospel. You read about the good neighbor who doesn't cross on the sidewalk. On honoring elders without a holiday agenda. About forgiving 70 times, if necessary. Sarah and Michael nodded, their eyes wide. New photos went on the living room wall. Printed at Walgreens, simple and clear frames. Blue porch, donuts in the park, holding hands. The memory of the future hung alongside the old ones. And the house became more of a home. Michael called the bank late in the afternoon. Confirmed deadlines, requested alerts for due dates. No scares, just predictability. I'll take care of that part without disappearing, he promised. Evelyn felt a relief that felt like singing. Sarah organized recipes in a binder. Chicken soups, chamomile teas, oatmeal cookies. Shopping lists with coupons and affection. Food is also a care that remains. Emma laughed. And it smells good in the room. On the swing, Evelyn told an old story. He talked about when he almost gave up asking for help. God taught me that humility is a muscle. It gets stronger when we practice. Emma kept that phrase as a medal. The late afternoon painted the balcony orange. The beagle dozed at the foot of the step. The radio played a hymn that sounded like a prayer of breeze. Grace that finds us, said the chorus. Hope spread a blanket over everyone. There were still letters to answer and bills to settle. No one romanticized what would still be work. But now the work had enough hands. And a diary that fits every budget. Guilt lost its job. Care was hired. Emma and Evelyn planned a simple outing. A day in the Nashville park, perhaps. Visit the old bookstore, have lunch at the new diner. Brings and takes with laughter and short steps. Small dreams that change the air in the house. In the kitchen, the smell of homemade donuts stirred memories. Sugar in the air, laughter in the corner chair. Michael burned one, Sarah saved two. Evelyn decreed, "It's perfect, because it's ours." Emma nodded with a mouthful of joy. Before sunset, Emma whispered a question. "Who else do we need to forgive inside?" Evelyn looked at the street, thought of an old name. "Maybe it was me, for hiding it so much." The swing responded with a peaceful creak. The neighborhood started collecting chairs. The moon rose, discreetly, like a backyard lamp. Michael and Sarah collected dishes, kept promises. Emma lined up her medications for the night. Evelyn was grateful for another whole day. What no one knew was that the house would receive another visitor. An old friend had sent a card announcing her arrival. "I spent years away. I'm coming back for a hug." Evelyn smiled, a mixture of surprise and sweetness. Perhaps there is still a story to be patched up. In the hall, the calendar received a new heart. Sunday set, routine at peace, next steps. Life didn't turn into a perfect movie, but it's good, because now it is shared and lived. And the table has room for whoever arrives. Emma carefully turned off the porch light. The swing held the last breath of the day. On the refrigerator, the reminders shone like beacons. And faith, without noise, was on duty. Next Sunday has already started to move forward. Evelyn closed her eyes with the Bible in her lap. He read a psalm of thanksgiving very quietly. "Goodness and mercy will follow me." It wasn't the end, it was the path. And the path fit in the palm of your hand. The house breathed as if it knew its own name. The walls held laughter, the roof held promises. The ground learned steps of hope. And the night, generous, made room for tomorrow. Without closing the chapter, just turning the page. If this story has found your heart, make it a kind mirror. Who in your family needs to hear a blunt, "I'm here"? Which missed call deserves to turn into a visit, hot soup, and a hand-holding? Maybe today is the day to mark that Sunday, without excuses, with gentle courage. Have you ever felt something similar? What would you do in this situation, sitting on Evelyn's blue porch? Who is your Mrs. Johnson, and to whom might you be that neighbor who shows up with flowers? What small but real step can you take before sunset today? Take a handful of simple, yet profound principles into your week. Love without presence becomes noise. Presence with kindness becomes home. Honoring your elders is a daily thing, not a holiday. Faith is a road made with feet and hands. Prayer in the living room, action in the kitchen, a hug at the door. If you want to continue walking with us, come stay close by. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. In your own time, your own way. With each new chapter, we'll bring you stories that warm, challenge, and help you start over. And who knows, maybe next Sunday you'll be with us on the bench in the square. Now tell me, what touched you the most? What scene would you take back to your life today?